Hi, I'm Kerry Critchlow from Falling Into Fire, and I'm here to talk to you about what I learned from the Smashing Pumpkins. Smashing Pumpkins sounds like something you do on Halloween, but today we're here to talk about the famous 90s rock band. Wikipedia. Smashing Pumpkins is an American alternative rock band from Chicago, Illinois, formed in 1988 by frontman Billy Corgan and guitarist James Iha. The band has included Jimmy Chamberlin, Darcy Retzky, Melissa Aufdenmauer, and currently includes Mike Byrne, Nicole Fiorentino, and Jeff Schroeder among its membership. Disavowing the punk rock roots of many of their alt-rock contemporaries, the Pumpkins have a diverse, densely layered, and guitar-heavy sound containing elements of gothic rock, heavy metal, dream pop, psychedelic rock, progressive rock, shoegazing-style production, and, in later recordings, electronica. Corgan is the group's primary songwriter. His grand musical ambitions and cathartic lyrics have shaped the band's albums and songs, which have been described as anguished, bruised reports from Billy Corgan's Nightmare Land. Okay, so the Pumpkins are really the brainchild of Billy Corgan, who was the band's primary songwriter, singer, frontman, and visionary. Now really, Corgan was something of a control freak, and that was probably one of the biggest reasons that led to their eventual breakup in 2000. Their early work was very mellow, lacking the big distorted guitars that the band was later famous for. By the time they released their first album, Gish? What the heck is a Gish? I got nothing. They released Gish in '91 and picked up a much heavier guitar sound, as well as incorporating some psychedelic influences into the music, coupled with a much more frantic pace. The Pumpkins would practice in a tiny little rehearsal space, which Corgan was living in at the time, for 6 to 8 hours a day, 3 to 5 days a week. That sounds like hard work. It was. Now, during this time, 2 or 3 members of the group would often drop LSD, mushrooms, or other psychedelic drugs while they practiced, leaving one sober person there just in case things got a little too out of hand. Oh, that seems sensible. After modest sales of Gish, the Pumpkins were gearing up to record their pivotal album, Siamese Dream. Siamese Dream? Who comes up with these names? At this point, Corgan was broke, like destitute, broke, poverty, often having to decide whether he should spend 50 cents on Little Debbie's or powdered donuts. He was still living in the rehearsal space, and the first album, while doing well on college stations and earning modest sales, was still very far from mainstream success. He actually wrote in his memoirs that he was very fearful at this point in time because he wasn't sure if he could cut it as an artist, and he didn't think he could hack it in the real world in a corporate type job either. Yeah man, don't be a sellout. Bottom line, if Siamese flopped, the Pumpkins were done. To make matters worse, Iha and Retzky were getting over a very rough breakup between each other. Jimmy Chamberlin was on a heroin binge and was often absent for days at a time from the studio sessions, and Billy Corgan was ushering in a brand new era of his depression. Billy, of course, coped with the stress by working in a non-stop maniacal fashion on the album. Corgan also added to the tension by recording almost all the guitar and bass parts in the album, leaving Retzky and Iha very bitter. For better or worse, the album did very well, and coupled with extensive touring, propelled the Pumpkins into the mainstream. Siamese Dream was a defining album, creating a template for production and sonic layering that became very popular and still has influences in the music you listen to today. With the commercial success of Siamese Dream under the belt, the Pumpkins decided to take a huge risk and release a double album. The double album concept had become something of a death touch to bands since the 70s, and nearly everyone was opposed to the move. But the Pumpkins would not relent, and they released one of the most unique and groundbreaking albums of all time, Melancholy and the Infinite Sadness. Well, that seems a bit melodramatic. It was the 90s. The album was a hodgepodge of eclectic musical styles and sounds, and proved to be the best-selling double album of all time, launching the Pumpkins to superstardom. Corgan shaves his head, the band releases a few innovative music videos, and it seems as if the Pumpkins can do no wrong. Then tragedy struck. Twice. First, the keyboardist they hired to tour with them, Jonathan Melvoin, overdosed on heroin while hanging out with Jimmy Chamberlin and died. The band fired Chamberlin and replaced him with drummer Matt Walker. The next tragedy struck while the Pumpkins were playing a gig at the Point Theatre in Dublin, Ireland. Despite the band's repeated requests for moshing to stop, a 17-year-old fan named Bernadette O'Brien was crushed to death. Their next album, Adore, flopped. The album featured a drum machine and had an electronica influence that, if released today, would probably sell quite well. The band broke up in 2000, citing irreconcilable differences. That sounds like a divorce, except not as friendly. Corgan would later reform the band, but the original lineup refused to ever play with him again. So, what did I learn from the Smashing Pumpkins? You don't need a full head of hair to be a rock star. Psychedelic drugs often accompany psychedelic music. Sometimes you have to take great risks to do great things. Don't be a control freak. There was a time and a place where a drum machine was a bad thing. It doesn't hurt to get really good at what you do. Never, ever, ever date your bandmates. Success comes slowly at first, and then all at once. And perhaps the most important thing I learned from the Smashing Pumpkins is, the world is a vampire. Thanks for watching, have a great day.